Hi everyone, welcome to Gallant IAS. This is Let's Score 120 Plus in Prelims 2021 series, and here we'll be solving a question from Indian polity, and based on that we will learn some core facts and concepts to boost your prelims preparation. And the question for today is, with reference to public interest litigation, consider the following statements. PAL can be filed for the violation of constitutional and legal rights of an individual. The rule of locus standi is not applicable in a PAL. Court cannot proceed sumoto in a PAL. In India, PAL is a product of judicial activism. So, what is actually a public interest litigation? See, when a matter of public interest is affected, I repeat once again, a large public interest is affected, then PAL can be filed. For an individual rights violation, a individual person's right is violated, then PAL cannot be initiated or PAL cannot be filed. This is for larger public interest. So the term itself says public interest litigation. So when the interest of large public is affected, only at that time PAL can be filed. Move on to statement. PAL can be filed for violation of constitutional legal rights of an individual. No, one is wrong. Why? It is against larger public interest if it is violated. Fine. 2 says that the rule of locus standi is not applicable in APL. So what is meant by locus standi? It is nothing but only the aggrieved person or the affected person can move the court. That is what meant by locus standi. The affected person can move the court. That is what meant by locus standi. But here, if a large section of people's rights are violated, anyone can file a PAL. So it says that rule of locus standi is not applicable in PAL because why? Anyone can file PAL for other persons concerned if their larger public interest is affected. Okay. So statement number 2 is correct here. 3 says that the court cannot proceed sumoto in the PAL. Sumoto means by its own initiative. That is a wrong statement. Court can initiate sumoto with a PAL. Okay. In India, PAL is a product of judicial activism. That's a correct statement. So, what is judicial activism? The court taking assertive steps for the larger public interest. Okay, the more assertive steps taken by the court for the larger public interest, that is what we mean by judicial activism. So, this is also a part of judicial activism. And here, whichever statements these are not correct is ours. So, not correct is 1 and 3. So, answer is option A, 1 and 3 only. Okay. With reference to anti-defection law, consider the following statements. Any question regarding disqualification arising out of defection is to be decided by the Supreme Court. 2. The law allows a party to merge provided that at least 1/3 of the legislatures are in favor of the merger. So this is regarding anti-defection law which comes under 52nd Amendment Act. Okay, so some conditions are there for anti-defection law and there are some exceptions also. Okay. And regarding the anti-defection law, who disqualifies the member? It is the presiding officer. Presiding officer. So it says that any question regarding disqualification arising out of defection is to be decided by the Supreme Court. No, decision is done by the presiding officer of that concerned house. But thing is that this is not beyond judicial review. It is subjected to judicial review only. That also please note down. Okay, so statement number 1 is wrong here. The law allows a party to merge provided that at 1/3 of the legislatures are in favor of the merger. See, there are some exceptions to anti-defection law. That is, if a party, if a member moves out of his party as a result of merger in the sense if 2/3 of the legislators of that party agreed for that merger. If 2/3 legislators of that party agreed for the merger and because of that merger someone goes out of the party, he will not be subjected to disqualification under anti-defection law. But statement says that 1/3, actually it is 2/3. This law allows a party to merge provided that at least 2/3 of the legislators are in favor. That should be the correct statement. So 2 is also wrong here. Similarly, a person after elected to the office of speaker, okay, an MP elected to the office of speaker, at that time if he voluntarily resigns from his party, he will not be subjected to disqualification under anti-defection law. Otherwise, if a member he voluntarily resigns from his party, then he will be subjected to disqualification. But if you remember, after electing to the office of speaker, okay, then he resigns from his party to maintain the impartiality in office, then he will not be subjected to an disqualification under anti-defection law. So all those exceptions also please note, because exceptions can be asked in the UPSC questions. Okay, so here both the statements are wrong here. So answer becomes option D, that is neither one nor two. With reference to Panchayat's extension to Scheduled Areas Act, consider the following statements. The purpose of the Panchayat's extension to the Scheduled Areas Act 1996 is to extend the provisions of the Constitution relating to the Panchayats to the 6 scheduled areas. The prior recommendation of governor is mandatory for grant of concession for the approval of minor minerals by auction from the areas coming under the purview of the Act. Which statements is or are correct? So regarding statement number 1, the PESA Act or this concerned act is to extend the provisions of Panchayats to 5th scheduled areas and not to 6th scheduled areas. So that's the wrong statement. That makes the statement wrong. Okay, PESA Act is related to extend the provisions of Panchayats to the 5th scheduled areas. So one is wrong here. Regarding to the prior recommendation of Gram Sabha is mandatory and not of the governor. So regarding granting concession for exploration of minerals, the prior recommendation of Gram Sabha is mandatory and not of the governor. So both statements are wrong here. Answer becomes option D, that is neither one nor two.